it's a very short worship song, but I like the words that it says. Like, she's praying out to God that, like, when doubt starts to come to my head, like all this stress, like, put it to rest. Like, we're asking God to help us in the sense of all of our stress and our anxieties. He's the one that can help us through it, which kind of goes into what we're going to be talking about today. So today we're going to be talking about the perfectionism attitude. And the previous weeks, it's not, oh, okay. Thank you. So the first week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, actually, we talked about the perfect performance, which we'll dive more into a little bit later. And as well as 2 weeks ago, we talked about dying to be beautiful. And today we're going to be talking about admitting mistakes and shortcomings, which is kind of hard for all of us to do. Well, maybe not all of us, but for me, it was definitely something that I didn't want to, like, come to face with, because it's like, I know it's something that I don't like to do, just because I do catch myself. Like, I'm not one to, like, admit a mistake. Like, if I know I'm wrong, I'm like, all right, cool. And, like, change the whole subject, and I'll try to find a way, like, somehow I was right. And shortcomings is as well as, like, kind of goes into what we talked about the first week, the whole perfect performance, in the way we strive to be so perfect that once we fall short of being perfect, we beat ourselves over it. And we have to admit where we're at fault and also be able to grow from it, which we'll also dive a little more deeper into today, starting with my next one. My next slide. Okay. So James 5:16 reads, "Therefore confess your sins to each other, pray for each other so that you may be healed." Pretty straightforward, We go to one another to talk to each other about our faults, like stuff that we struggle with, to help each other, build each other up. We come to church because iron sharpens iron. In simple terms, an example I can think of this too is that I had an old coworker of mine at Tierra Mia. He was Christian. Like, we talked about God. We talked about God. We had, like, our same, like, ideals, and yet, like, he still smoked marijuana. And I was like, like, this doesn't make sense. Like, how is it that you're gonna, like, talk so highly about God, but yet you're gonna smoke marijuana? Like, it doesn't add up. And then I asked him, like, I already knew his answer as soon as I was going to ask him, so I kind of wanted to put it in simple terms. And I asked him, I was like, oh, like, would you ever get a tattoo? And he was like, no, because I'm not going to trash my body like that. And I was like, okay, so you should see that same way as marijuana. You're trashing your body. Like, obviously, you're using your body as a temple for God, which he had also stated of a reason why not to get a tattoo. He confessed his sins to me. I didn't use it in a way to, like, judge him or to, like, make him feel bad about himself, but I did it so that I could pray for him, and so that, like, I can kind of, like, check up on him, like, hey, are you still smoking weed or what? Like, it kind of motivates him not to do it. And that's the same reason why we tell each other our sins. Not so that, like, if I tell Anthony something personal, like, I didn't tell him so he can condemn me, because that's not our job. It's God's job to do that. He's the only person that is allowed to, quote unquote, judge us, and we're just here to help each other out, to go through our sins and to grow from them. Sorry. I don't think my slide thingy is working. Thank you. So, is it bad to hide from our mistakes? Yes. As much as we try to avoid it and our shortcomings, it is pretty bad, because, as stating before, this kind of goes, everything that we're going to talk about today goes hand in hand with what we talked about the first week, the perfect performance. Like, we strive to be perfect, and in doing so, it causes stress. And it's the same thing with hiding our mistakes, our imperfections. It allows stress to come into our heart, and we don't want stress. Stress allows, like, bad things to happen, because then you try to relieve your stress in unholy ways. Like, there's going to be, like, so many people that tell you, oh, you're so stressed, smoke weed. You're so stressed, like please your body in so many ways. I was just talking to my dad about this. Like, when I get stressed and sad, I buy things. Like, I know that's where my fault is. Like, I try really hard. Like, I'm getting better. I am getting better, like, not buying stuff when I am sad. And, like, I have to, like, really, really know, like, is this coming because, like, it's a want, a need, or, like, is it I'm just doing it because I'm upset, you know? And also, avoiding our mistakes doesn't allow us to grow. And that's kind of like point simple. If we try to continue to hide stuff, like in the first picture on the slide, it was like someone brooming like all the trash under the rug. If we continue to do that, nothing is truly clean, like ourselves as well. And it kind of goes, I kind of think back to having a pure heart, the preaching that I talked about, you know, like we try to let God come heal us, clean us, but if we don't let him pick certain things, like let's say I don't want to allow to like fix my mistakes because I think I'm perfectly fine, like I can continue to sin and God's going to forgive me for that. That's not what it is, because you're going against what the Bible's telling you. And then let's go. Can I go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So Jeremiah 8:4 reads, when people fall down, do they not get up? When someone turns away, do they not return? In the sense, point blank, learning from our mistakes. You know, I talked about, I think a couple weeks ago, I talked about my uncle who taught me, he was like probably like the first person that point blank taught me how to learn from my mistakes. You know, I kept tripping over the same part, like going around the block. I kept tripping, and he was like, you know it's there. Like, why do you keep tripping, you know? And it's because, and I told myself, I was like, I don't realize it. I don't want to bring attention to it, which goes into us making mistakes. Talking from like personal experience, like I try to avoid my mistakes. I don't like bringing them up because just like the perfect performance, I strive to be perfect, you know? I strive to be perfect because like I don't want to let other people down, nor do I I guess myself too. Like, I don't want to let God down. I don't want to let my parents down. I don't want to let, like, you know, youth leaders down. Like, I do stuff, and if I'm going to do it, I want to do it with excellence, which I should, because everything we do is for God, and we should strive to be excellent in everything. But with that also being said, we have to do it in the sense that I'm not going to beat myself over it. Like, if I'm going to cause myself, like, self-harm or self-doubts, I need to come to the realization that I'm doing that and ask God to cleanse me and to bring me peace in what I'm doing. And with that, also learning from mistakes. Can I go to the next one, please? And then this goes into like who to blame. So point blank, Adam and Eve. Who's to blame? Raise your hand if it's Adam to blame. All right. Okay. And who's to blame for Eve? No participators. Come on, guy. Adam's to blame? Okay. You know what? Let's go on this side. Who's to blame? Adam or Eve? Adam? Adam? Eve? Raise your hand for Eve. This side? Who's to blame? Adam and Eve for the great sin. Adam or Eve? You think so? All right. So obviously, we're point blank. It is Adam's fault. I mean, like, I'm not one to judge anyone, but in this story, it is Adam's fault. But coming from like a worldly perspective, thinking in, everyone assumes it's Eve. You know, no one really truly looks into the details. I took a feminist to philosophy class, one to get out of philosophy, and also because I was interested. And it was truly heartbreaking just because like everyone in the class just was like smack talking the Bible, and it's just like, you guys are so like in my personal, I was like, you guys are ignorant. Like, they're talking so much smack about the Bible, but they don't know it. Like, their whole thing is like, why everyone was talking smack about the Bible was because the Bible, they're like, yeah, they blame Eve. Like, it's Eve's fault. Like, why is it the woman's fault? And I was like, you know, and I rose my hand. I was like, that's not true. If you think about it, the world didn't collapse until Adam took the bite. You know, it was Adam's job to take care of everyone, including his wife. Like, where was he when his wife was sinning, you know? It's on Adam. And they were, like, when I told them, it was just like, they were like, whoa, like, I never thought about that. And I was like, yeah, because you guys don't know. You guys don't read the Bible. And it's, like, completely ignorant. And then they were saying there was no women in the Bible other than Mary. I was like, what do you mean? Like, there's Esther. There's so many people. And like, when I said that, I was like, there's Esther. Like, she has a whole book and she's like empowering about women. And I talked about Priscilla, and like, even my professor, she's like, you know what? That's so funny. Like, I'm Jewish and they made us learn about Esther. And I was like, then why are you like not saying that there isn't women in the Bible? Like, it's completely ignorant. And there was a guy in the class, like, he wasn't religious, and he was like, oh, like, I'm reading the Bible from front to back, and I don't agree with you guys. And I was like, thank you. Like, like, it wasn't just me, and it's something that we have to think closely, and it comes to us personally, too. We try to blame others for our mistakes. I know I personally do that with as well. Like, I want to say, like, oh, I sinned, or I did this because this was in my way, because this person wasn't there to stop me, And I can't. It's my fault, which goes into Aaron making the calf. Aaron made the calf for the people because they were saying they needed a God to worship. And so Aaron made it for them. But as soon as Moses came down, he didn't blame the people, nor did he condemn them. He blamed Aaron. And he blamed Aaron because he was the one who made the calf. He was the one in charge, and because of that, all the people fell. And it's very crucial because you would think it's the people to blame because they pressured Aaron. But as a leader, he should have been strong in his will and in his faith in God, our God that we follow, that he should have stood his ground. And Moses came down and he told him, like, you are the one to blame for this. Which also is going to go into, next slide, okay. 1 Samuel 22, verses 20 through 23. I'm going to sadly butcher these names. It's a little hard. But one son of Ahimelech, son of Ahitub, named Abihathar, escaped and fled to join David. He told David and Saul he had killed the priests of the Lord. Then David said to Abihathar, the day that Doeg the Edomite was there, I knew he would be sure to tell Saul, I am responsible for the death of your whole family. Stay with me. Don't be afraid. The man who wants to kill you is trying to kill me. You will be safe with me. In this story, David admits to his faults. He knew he messed up. And in doing so, he took the blame. And in doing so, he told them, like, come with me. Like, I will do everything in my power to protect you. And in doing so, we have to strive to do this. We have to be able to accept the blame. As, like, hard as it is, we have to take the mistakes for who we are, our sins and everything. Like, we have everyone here to go to, You guys have youth leaders to go to. If you don't feel comfortable, talk to one of us privately, leave a little anonymous note, so that we can, like, bring this stuff up to talk to you about. Because none of us are perfect. Not even us youth leaders are perfect. We've made faults either in the past, hopefully, like, not as much currently, because we're all still striving to be not quote-unquote perfect, but to live like God. And that's how it truly should be. And I'm going to go over some takeaways from the past 3 weeks. If I can go to the next slide, please. Okay. So, first of all and foremost, we don't have to be perfect. Every single human here is imperfect. Like, there is no way we can avoid that. God's going to accept us for who we are. And I'm not saying that in the sense, like, go out and sin and come ask God to forgive us, because that's not the case. We're going to strive to be perfect in the sense that we are going to live by God. In doing so, we're reading the Bible, talking to each other, talking to God, asking him to help us in any way that we can. Going through these topics, going from the perfect performance, I saw little things that I saw myself in, like, doing so, like, I realized, like, maybe I don't need to be perfect, and I'm not perfect, and I'm, like, well aware, like, I'm not perfect in any way, and I'm striving to be. I'm striving to live like God. I'm reading the Bible. Like, my dad and I were talking about this the other day about Brother Jay's preaching, because, like, when we sin, or we're, like, about to sin, we don't want to because we're afraid of disappointing God. And I catch myself doing that, like, when I, like, going, like, into, like, me buying stuff when I'm sad, I'm like, do I want to do this? Like, I know I shouldn't. And like, I catch myself and I was like, I don't want to disappoint God. And that's like my biggest fear. I don't want to disappoint God in anything. And then going back into like, God's going to accept us for who we are, but we still need to strive to be like him, And then we must be able to accept our flaws and our mistakes and embrace who we are to grow emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually, point blank said. And, going into like these past topics, like I talked about not last week, 2 weeks ago, like the whole, like dying to be beautiful, like I talked about it then and I'll talk about it again, I talked about it like months ago, like that was my topic, like being good enough. And I talked about like seeing how I saw myself then. Like it was like a hard topic just because like it's hard to talk about self-love of how you look on yourself when you don't feel it. Like it's not as bad as it was like the first time I read the topic. And like since then, it's more of like a wake-up call because God's still working in me. Like I'm not going to stand up here and tell you guys, I'm a good example because like that's not true. Like I still have my flaws. I'm learning from them. I'm growing more in God each day. And, like I'm grateful for that alone. And, it's just, if anything, it's like I want to help others to do so. I want to help you guys grow in God. I want to help you guys see that not everybody's perfect. And we shouldn't have like a perception of somebody who's perfect. If we put someone up to a pedestal and we're like, this is the example you guys need to go by, it's going to make you guys feel less worthy. And I'm not an example, but I fall to that. When I see someone put onto a pedestal, it makes me feel bad about myself, that I'm not worthy enough, that I have so many mistakes that I still need to strive to be better, to be like that, quote unquote, like the golden child, And honestly, like there is no such thing. We all make mistakes. And yeah, that's all I have for today. Thank you.